If you haven't been on the field and hustled to understand like how your customer responds or your prospect to your message, to your product, to your proposition, and then you haven't actually experienced someone turning you down, you can't learn and you can't be the best.
Now today we're joined by Lauren Berkemeyer, Chief Marketing Officer at ULife. And Lauren is one of the most unconventional marketers that you could meet.
You talk unashamedly about hustling.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your perspective on the word and the principle of hustling.
It's not in the 4 Ps, but it is a P of being just proactive all the time. And so
In this conversation, we explore how marketing can genuinely improve people's lives using behavioral science, gamification, and well-being to drive healthier habits.
Getting up at the 5 a.m. and sleeping at 9, but
Yeah.
you have a busy day, you have a busy job, you have a busy life. How do you balance it all?
it's interesting. I don't operate in a land of routine at all, except for a few things. Waking up early and exercising before I go to the office. To leave your phone downstairs and just read a book before bed and have a traditional alarm clock is transformative.
Tell us what a non-boxy CMO is and how you came to be one.
I actually thrive on variety and unpredictability and the thrill of the unknown. And I think when you thrive on that, you end up becoming quite out of the box.
It's a conversation packed with practical wisdom on leadership, innovation. We hope you enjoy it. Let's get in.
Hi, Lauren. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
How's the last couple of months been for you?
Good. I would say, every day is an unpredictable adventure in my life.
Go on, elaborate for us. What do you mean?
It's been good. I would just say, there's been a couple big milestones for ULife, which is great in terms of product launches. We just had a product launch last week with Bupa on cash plan, so that was exciting. Lots of good momentum on my daughter's football club, so that's cool.
Amazing. American football or soccer or what? Okay.
Soccer. She's 11, going on 12. They just an incredible grassroots football club.
Amazing.
Called Victoria Park Rangers. Been spending a lot of time in Camber Sands, which is my happy place, so I can talk a little shout out to Camber Sands, South England. Have a little kind of beach house bungalow there.
Oh, nice.
And then keeping my fitness strong, keeping balanced, keeping the ideas running, navigating this crazy world that's gone upside down in the last 6 months.
Tell you what, it certainly has gone upside down.
Yeah.
But you talked about ULife there. I mean, give us a little bit of an understanding about what ULife is all about.
Yeah. So ULife is a brand on a pretty big mission. We're on a marketing podcast, so we love a good brand with a big mission. So ULife is a all-in-one insurance and wellness benefit that helps people live their best lives. And we do that by rewarding healthy behavior with an app that people use and engage with every day through very cool game mechanics. And the principle is if you incentivize people for walking more, meditating, brain training, and you do it in a way that feels accessible, so not too out of reach, you can really drive good behavior change. So we kind of package that up as a benefit, and then effectively, the theory and the thesis is that happier, healthier employees is better business, healthier business, and we're proving that out. So we attach ULife to life insurance and health insurance with MetLife and with Bupa, and create a really wonderful benefit that I hear stories all the time about how much impact we're having on people's lives. So very rewarding to market that kind of a product.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Trying to do some real good in the world. There's just one thing you said which caught my ear. Brain training.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit.
So the genesis of that, we translate brain training into a Sudoku puzzle, which we call Udoku. So we have a lot of euphemisms that you like.
Euphemisms.
Yeah.
See what you did there.
There you go.
Boom.
You set it up. That came off the back. I would say the inspiration came from Wordle, as you know, New York Times Wordle. And there was a challenge that we had in the catalyst, and the byproduct is incredible impact to giving people that nugget of brain training every day. But the catalyst of it was effectively that we had a large cohort of employees, not significant, but who were not necessarily doing all the challenges. And we wanted to say, okay, how can we create something within the app that actually drives some of those more nascent, unengaged people who maybe were not as into doing the walking challenges, as into doing the meditation. And what's interesting about brain training is it's ignited a whole new cohort of participants. And when you do that, oftentimes with any sort of app technology and engagement, once you get people hooked in, then they start using more. It's like cross-sell too, but we're not selling effectively. We're just cross-selling engagement mechanics. But the byproduct is, I mean, there's just a significant amount of research on the value of brain training on Sudoku, things like Wordle, things like Scrabble.
Yeah.
So we just translate that into that
Love all of
overarching
So
wellness, as do I. I'm a traditionalist.
You're telling me that people end up doing brain training and then they benefit with the product suite that they have, with sort of some of the insurance sort of propositions that they then can benefit from as a consequence of brain training?
Well, so I think what you have to think about the traditional carrot. What carrot are you going to dangle, right? So notoriously benefits aren't really engaged with. So how do you get people actually understanding their insurances, getting the help when they need it? You give people something they value every day. So some people value taking their morning walk.
Okay.
Others value doing their meditation first thing or in the evening. And others value doing a little puzzle every day. And so the whole kind of ethos is that if you can get people hooked consistently, hooked in a positive way, consistently, then that creates this byproduct where benefits get used, people get access to care quicker, you get the pathways into, support faster. So there's a whole knock-on effect. But if you only build the product to react to that point of sickness, you don't actually proactively help anyone. And so that's really the game, that we're kind of in.
We've gone a little bit deep into life and the amazing things you're doing. You said something to me when I think the very first time we met a few months back, that you're a non-boxy CMO. So tell us what a non-boxy CMO is and how you came to be one.
I would say I'm a non-boxy person. That translates also into CMO territory.
Even better.
I mean, I'm trying to think about when we talked about it, the context that we were talking in. But I would say my entire career, I've probably taken quite an unconventional path in terms of the new adventures, the new opportunities, and the things that I pursue. So I actually thrive on a variety and unpredictability and the thrill of the unknown. And I think when you thrive on that, you end up becoming quite out of the box, I guess, so to speak. Now, within that, there has to be parameters to the box. So I don't go totally rogue and do whatever I want. But I think it's really about how do you kind of carve a path for yourself that there isn't. You talk a lot about playbooks, right? And actually, your book, Climb, I mean, there's a lot of good playbook aspects in that, which I love. But I think for me, I've taken a path that has been very opportunistic about, being proactive, asking the questions, being intuitive, taking the chances, taking the risks to then sort of carve out what the role, almost every role that I've been in, I've almost defined the role different from the spec would have ever said, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It completely makes sense. So now the fact that you've read the book and thank you for some of those reviews. Hey, there we go. Big shout out there. You know the three archetypes of a career, right? So it's the climber, the explorer, and the creator. What would you say has sort of been the archetype of your career? Does it sort of fit into any of those categories, or indeed maybe even a fourth?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give you a comparable story, which will lead you to my archetype.
There we are.
Yeah, which is not marketing related, but it transcends into the way that I approach things. So when I lived in New York City for 10 years, I moved every year. And I moved every year because I wanted to experience a different neighborhood, because it would give me a sense of what that city was all about. And I also was working for Metro, which is very much Metro, the daily newspaper.
Right, yeah.
Which is very much part of the fabric of the city. So I was living and breathing and I was a brand ambassador for this wonderful brand at the time, while also exploring avidly everything that the city had to offer. And I thought when I read your archetypes, I thought of that immediately. Mm-hmm. But then I thought, okay, the I'm constantly thinking about this journey. It's interesting because it's linear, but then it's also squiggly.
Yeah.
So from a linear perspective, I'm seeing, okay, I'm exploring, but I'm progressing, and I'm seeing evolution in terms of building teams, in terms of building new products, launching new products, building business models. But then the way that I'm actually getting there is quite unconventional many times and is a bit squiggly.
Got it.
So I think I just gravitate to, and I go back to the unpredictability and the unknown, finding those pathways, understanding those commercial models, because you need your North Star. You talked a lot about your North Star too, and we talk a lot about that in New Life and the businesses that I've helped build. So you need to know your North Star, but it's very much, for me, like encourage, and I do this with my team, to get there creatively, to push the boundaries, to take the risks, to experiment, so that you're not just following a playbook that you were handed. And I would say, and I would say, like, it's probably why I haven't gravitated to a more corporate structure in terms of roles.
Today's program is brought to you by two fantastic organizations. First up is Studio Space, a leading on-demand marketing agency platform. Studio Space gives marketers complete control over their projects, from matching the right agency to your brief, to managing contracts and invoicing, and even tracking all of your spend data all in the one place. They take care of everything, and it's totally hassle-free. They even guarantee the work. So check out Studio Space today. Our second sponsor is the Marketing Skills Trust, a charity with a mission to make marketing a better place for everyone. They provide grants to help create a more equitable industry and support initiatives that really do drive diversity, inclusion, and create opportunity. The trust has been instrumental in leveling up the marketing skills across the board. And do take a look at their website for more information. Now, let's get on with the show. I just love that, because it's kind of like you understand you, and you understand how your skills, capabilities, and your vision intersect with the world around you to then make those choices about where you feel you'd be best fitted in the type of organizations, the type of roles, the type of mentality and cultures that that would be, that would lead to your success. And I think that's sort of almost a rare find. I think too often people need to get more conscious about making those type of choices. Mm-hmm. So do you think it was a conscious choice that you were making, or do you feel like this meandering has sort of led you to the right path almost sort of through osmosis? I
mean, probably like the exposure I had as a child of two entrepreneurs. So meaning, at the dinner table, we would talk about challenges. I mean, when I was 12, 14, like I
that's cool.
I was very involved with my parents' businesses. Sometimes.
What were they doing? What were the businesses?
They were both like design architecture businesses.
Brilliant.
So, of which my mom's is still thriving today. But I think, even I helped her out as a kid. I helped my dad out as a kid. We had this like open kind of transparent communication young. So I kind of knew, I would say, I talk a lot to my team about knowing how the machine works. Don't just know how your own marketing infrastructure works.
Yeah.
And so I think early on I knew, I'm biased. Like I think everything is business's success is so based on the efficacy of marketing and the brand. And it does start, the product has to work, but I firmly believe how valuable the dimension that I look after is. But equally, if I don't understand how that whole machine is working, the value I deliver is going to only be a small fraction of what it could be. So I think early on, parents, like very much, I was like very clear on just what sales meant, how you hustle. Like both of my parents, like great entrepreneurs, but salespeople at heart. And I think I then gravitated to those sort of opportunities that were quite like gritty, and that you did get a bit dirty, and you did you could see the impact of your work quite effectively, rather than being maybe a cog. And so that really influenced me. And then subsequently, I think I kind of looked for those characteristics in terms of having environments that were quite diverse in terms of what I could do in that role. And also like environments where I could take that chance. I mean, I'm not going to go in too much. Probably like the biggest chance I took was right out of college, which I'll just share anecdotally, because it did sort of foundationally, I would say, lead to a lot of like the grit and the hustle and the hunger that I have. But I took a real chance on joining a Broadway show right out of school. So I co-produced a comedy variety show. I'll give a shout out to Jeff Beecher. And I joined that off the back of seeing an ad in the New York Times. So this is when you used to look at their classified ads. You your time. So I graduated 2002 from university, and, gone are those days. But I was really drawn to this concept of building something. And I think I always have been drawn to that. And I, started this show with Jeff out of his apartment, right out of school, and everyone thought I was nuts. And my parents were very supportive, and they were like, just go for it.
Amazing.
And I think that then led to this, ability to like take risks more quickly and just have that. And that show, which we built and is now, growing all over the world, and it's my real sliding door moments from a career perspective, taught me so much foundationally that was like, very instrumental in that pathway I subsequently took.
Love that.
Yeah.
It feels like a bit of a full circle thing that your parents inspired you at the age of 12, and maybe you're doing the same for your 11, 12-year-old daughter right now.
I hope so, yeah.
You mentioned North Star at ULife, but also you said you've seen the role and the value of North Stars throughout your career.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your perspective on the role of a North Star.
Has to come from the top and has to be quite clearly disseminated down. Because I think if you don't have a clear goal from the top, when I say that, like from the founder, CEO, board, the impact of that is just your staff is just not going to be engaged, and they're not going to feel like they're part of that journey.
Yeah.
So knowing, Jamie True, who's the entrepreneur I used to work for before ULife, and has taught me so much. He always talks about the tip of the spear, which is the same as the North Star. If you have the tip of the spear and you know your North Star and you're really like clear and you have a lot of conviction around that, then your troops follow that. It's when you talk about getting on the same boat, rowing the boat in the right direction. When your North Star is a bit, there's a storm over it.
Yeah.
You end up oftentimes rowing different boats. So I think like I've been very clear, like even Metro Daily newspaper, which is, at the time it was very cool. It doesn't really exist as much, and it's fruitful, but in the time that I worked for them, it was a very disruptive brand taking on the traditional big, mega, premium, paid for products. And the North Star was like to be this platform that young metropolitans engaged with and read, and then you sold, big advertising programs, and it was very guerrilla marketing, but it was very clear who the ideal customer was and the ideal target was, and then everything followed, like the sales momentum, the editorial momentum, the marketing momentum. And so I talk a lot about too, like don't boil the ocean, know who your customer is. It's all those things, but the North Star is almost like who's that North Star customer that you are all on the same path to build.
That is an interesting spin because many North Stars don't even actually mention the customer. So like that. The other thing you said was about hustling, and Richie and I occasionally have a conversation about hustling, and there's a sort of like a bit of a bristling about is it has negative connotations as a word, but from writing the book and talking to all the people we've talked to through the years, it's a critical component of putting yourself forward and getting on. You talk unashamedly about hustling. Yeah. So tell us a bit about your perspective on the word and the principle of hustling.
I mean, it's not in the 4 Ps, but it is a P of being just proactive all the time. And so I think what's interesting about hustling or hunger as H's and P's is that you learn from them and you actually fail from them too. And I think if you're a marketer building something and you haven't experienced, you haven't gone out in the market and hustled to sell that, because I don't believe that sales and marketing should live in these linear paths and neither know what each other is doing. But if you haven't been on the field and hustled to understand like how your customer responds or your prospect to your message, to your product, to your proposition, and then you haven't actually experienced someone turning you down, you can't learn and you can't be the best marketer for that. So that oftentimes I find is like a missing part of the equation. When I talk about hustle too, it's intentionality. So it's not being really annoying. Like it's hopefully, Mark, you can tell me if next time if you see me out. there's a way that you can authentically, I mean, it goes back to like human behavior and just like giving more. We talk a lot like giving more than you take. So when I was at your Climb program recently, if I think about like hustling in that context, so this is an environment of CMOs, some other interesting providers, we have some drinks, et cetera. I look at that as like, I'm present in that environment, I'm going to the networking, but in the networking, it's not about me trying to sell you life. It's about me actually building trust to start. So you have to so hustling is also building trust.
So true.
And doing that in an authentic way. So like the people that I met at your program, they genuinely like enjoyed, I would say, the dialogue we had together because it was a reciprocal dialogue based on getting to know each other effectively. Now, in that, you can kind of plant the questions that help guide you in the all roads point to you life, hopefully.
Yep.
But also, like, you need to read your audience. And I was talking about this the other day. Have you played the game Apples to Apples?
I haven't.
Or Cards Against Humanity?
Oh, yes.
You know Cards Against Humanity. Okay. So the notion of playing the player, right? In a nice way. I mean, in an authentic way. Like, you need to know your audience. You need to know what makes them tick and resonate and know the time. I mean, the similar in marketing. Top of the funnel is the same. You can almost say like me going to a party at your program is top of the funnel to a degree, right? Mm-hmm. Me chatting. And effectively getting to know you, ideally, then I'm bringing them down the funnel a bit. Sometimes it's quicker. And sometimes they're not the right customer, and that's okay. They're just someone who actually could recommend someone to you in the future.
True.
So there's all those.
You've got to see the bigger game there. And I actually wonder if I rewind back when you're talking about the world of hustle, but it's in a very sort of positive way. I wonder if it comes back to that dining table when you were around with your folks, them talking about their businesses. And when you're really at grassroots level, building a business, it's all these kind of key skills that you really do need. And often what I find is that sometimes organizations, people don't necessarily have the same level of hunger as entrepreneurs do, perhaps. And I wonder, where do you get your hunger from? Where's that origination point that has kind of given you that fire in the belly to keep on pushing forward?
I mean, it's just so ingrained in my, I would say, DNA. Nature versus nurture. It's a bit, I mean, a lot of it's learned over time. But if you think about, I'll give you an example because I was thinking about this last night when I read a post, I think on LinkedIn about the World Economic Forum. So I get a bit of a case study example. When I joined the Wall Street Journal, which is a big mega business, and I joined the Wall Street Journal because I would help build that business outside of the U.S. So to me, it felt very entrepreneurial, where it was underdog. I like underdog territory, building a new market, evangelizing the global growth. And I was sent to, so traditionally every year we distributed a special edition of the World Economic Forum newspaper in Davos.
Right. Yep.
And so because I was like running the marketing and running a lot of these programs that were tied to the advertising dollars, I sent out to do a bit of a recce. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this is almost a disservice to the brand to be distributing newspapers and be sending reporters separately. So this is what had been done for years. You send reporters, you have a press junket, you then have the newspapers distributed, you hire promoters to distribute the newspapers, you sell advertising, and you sell advertising on top of the digital, right? So in my exploratory nature, went under the stand, I'm like, there has to be more of a bigger activation opportunity here. And so because I met the owner of like the main hotel where all the activations were happening and got wind through discovery that they were building an extension to this hotel for the World Economic Forum and pitched the idea that we would create this really valuable lounge in Davos.
Yeah.
No one had known about it yet, so no one had actually pitched the idea yet. I flew to Frankfurt to see the prefab buildings to make sure it was right, and I went back to the business and I pitched them this concept that we should have an interactive lounge, sell advertising, sponsorships, opportunities around it. So that is taking like one program and amplifying it to another program. Now, at the end of the day, the North Star for this specific initiative was to build the brand and to build the prestige and the reputation of the Wall Street Journal around this coverage, but to also build a significant advertising opportunity. So what happened by actually treating the platform differently, which to this day is still there and is one of their flagship, the Journal Lounge is like the Journal House now it's called, is one of their flagship initiatives globally. That is just amplifying and building an opportunity out of something that the goal was there, but actually wasn't being maximized. So that little pocket of that little information, if you take that concept and you apply that into a lot of other things, you then create a lot more opportunity over time. So I would think that's at its core how I think about things.
Hey, I love that. And in fact, actually, I think when I think about commerciality and come back to the marketer's commerciality, it's actually all up here. It's how you see and frame a problem. You may have all the same inputs, but it's actually how you digest those inputs and actually create a different pathway, shall we say, that leads to greater commercial outcomes. And actually, that's where I think a lot of marketers miss the boat. They just think too linearly, and they don't think in and around in adjacent ways in order to actually harness and maximize every opportunity, touch point of commerciality you can get out of it. And that's, for me, just one of the things that I wish, marketers had a better purview on.
Well, and a lot of that also just comes from having like very diverse experiences and perspectives. And I think what's interesting, when I pivoted from media to startup, HR tech, wellness, 9 years ago now, I think. I mean, that was a tough moment to convey and to package myself up as like relevant for this new industry. But actually, if you take all the experiences and the programs and the initiatives that you build and the businesses that you help grow, the principles are transferable. So as long as you can convey and communicate those principles and the approach that you take, oftentimes like you aren't typecast out of it. But that is hard. I mean, for a lot of people to pivot and to create that relevance, how do I go from corporate to startup or from media to HR tech? People really struggle with that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You've done a few pivots. Is there a pivot that you missed?
What I miss I would say the most significant career industry pivot is going from media to really startup scale-ups and what started more in this wellness, HR tech, and now in this insurance space, which I'm now very much focused on one brand. So the diversity comes from the type of customers that we interact with and the way that you can engage with those customers. But the beauty of media, which you underestimate until, when I say media, publishing, editorially backed products, et cetera, the beauty of that is that the diversity of being able, it's almost why I would think people love working in agencies, because you're constantly getting creative about working with different brands. So effectively, you're using the media, the publisher, as the vehicle to distribute and amplify the brand's purpose and their mission and the program. And there's a lot of creativity around packaging up those advertising programs. So I would say I miss being that it was like a supercharged consultant to some of the biggest brands in the world. And that was quite an exciting thing. You get under the hood, you understand those brands, you understand their ambitions, their own KPIs, and then you utilize and you leverage that editorial acumen, that distribution channel, that power to help them become successful and bring forth the best making of their own marketing impact, which I loved.
Be that as it may, you've packed it in and you've got a lot to celebrate in your career. But let's go back to YouLife, because as I understand it, you had to build a marketing function literally from the ground up, from the beginning. So tell us about what you faced, what process I suppose you moved through, and what came as a result.
Yeah. This goes back to risk taking at its finest. So, and some, you have to, I know not everyone is as fortunate to be able to take those risks. And I'm, fortunate to be married to a great man who is probably the less risk taker of the relationship. So, meaning, has had a very kind of stable banking career for a long time. So, with that, I've been able to kind of, I would say, take those chances with that support, which I think is like really important to do that. Now, when I say risks, in a business, many startups, I mean, you will have unpacked all the stats around the number of startups that succeed versus don't. And when I joined ULife, it was very much at the beginning stages. Not many customers, 20, 30 people, big mission. I had met one of the founders at an event. I put his business card in my pocket, I think, it was one of those serendipity moments where I think it was a day in which I was thinking, okay, I'm ready for my next move. We had gone through like an amazing adventure at LifeWorks. That business was bought by a bigger business, and the whole kind of culture shifted, but also my role shifted, and I wanted to get back into the trenches. So I kind of recognized that in myself. I was missing the 0 to 1 and the building kind of territory. And so the appeal of I had met one of the founders, and we had a great interaction at one of these conferences, and I took his business card, and I reached back out to him and I said, would love a coffee, just unsolicited. I just knew that they were doing something interesting, and I, if anything, building the last business that I was in, why do you join businesses when there's a big opportunity, a mission that you believe in, a product you believe in, and what is a bonus on the cake is a pretty big total addressable market to attack. Yeah. I also I love, as I said earlier, I like being the underdog. I like thrive and be in the underdog territory. And the fact that this small business taking on insurance to help people live better lives and flip the model upside down, I love that challenge. I love that idea. Oh. And then I subsequently, because it's not just about the idea and not just about what it said on that business card that I took out of my pocket that day, but meeting the founders, meeting the CEO, meeting the co-founders, we had such a good, authentic connection that I think you can't make that up. Plus, the product works in a really effective way. So culture, boom. Mission, check. Product works. Now you got to build the thing. Man. So what do you have to do when you got to build something from day one? You need good people. And so I brought one of my best employees, Shay, with me on the journey. He was actually said to the founders, I'm coming if this guy's coming with me. He had built the marketing infrastructure at LifeWorks for me. And, that has been really rewarding to see him kind of grow through the business too. But I would say that in terms of that, I didn't answer your question fully, but in terms of that catalyst of joining, that was what took it. And then you have to basically go back to the basics and say, where do you start? Who is your ICP? Who's your addressable audience? What is the data that you have? How do you package up this product? Because I think also like we were operating in this very unknown space where we built a product for consumers, really, employees, but with consumer-facing tech, but selling to businesses. And that's where they hadn't really established how you could translate this concept into actual business value. And so, day one was like, who's your audience, who's your target market, and how do you basically convey this product in a way that is very relevant and very true to the way it was built, but relates very effectively to your audience you're speaking to.
And now you've built that and having success, what does a genuine culture of innovation look like in a marketing team from your perspective?
I think it depends. I'm going to say it depends on the person, because some people actually innovate differently than others. But I mean, I try to encourage as much experimentation within reason, because we also have to be quite thrifty. I mean, I would say very resourceful. I am a thrifty person at heart, but very resourceful. Innovation is whether you're a specialist or a generalist. It's about basically coming to the table to push the dimension of that function further than it probably anyone would have anticipated it to be. The same example with my Wall Street Journal example. The same applies to, if you're building out a RevOps function, how are you innovating in that function to basically know and understand your customer better? And what was interesting, and I'll give you innovation, that's a simple little nugget of that example, was that oftentimes with revenue operations and your data and segmentation, you may say, like, for example, ULife's ICP are 5 to 500 seat businesses. We love scale ups, tech businesses, etc. But innovation actually is probably building a more robust understanding of your audience. Because what I've found is that because we're selling an emotional product, interestingly, many times our customers are out of what you would say our ICP is, because it's actually about the individual being a change maker, irrespective of their industry. So it's quite an interesting, so I see innovation like events. How are you showing up to that event, doing something different than anyone else has done? Like, I built with the team. I was so frustrated by pens and notebooks at these trade shows that I crowdsourced I need to give these to you guys.
Okay.
And I will send you some if anyone wants one of them. A custom deck of playing cards where every day is a different well-being hack. And the price of those playing cards is less than a pen, but has more impact. I do want to get distribution at W.H. Smith. I think there is something there. But each suit is a different pillar of well-being each day. And I had customers, our employees, all contribute to that.
Amazing.
And put acknowledgments in the cards,
Amazing.
Right? So it's the innovation comes in the small moments. It comes in the big business model, break down this insurance industry and show the impact like no one's done before. But it also comes in the small moments of showing up and innovating in the space in which you are operating in that moment, which then adds to that multiplier.
Love it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to turn the corner completely, right? You would see in your data a whole host of things that work for people, that make people's lives better, more positive, more healthy when it comes to well-being, both physically and mentally. Can you maybe give our audience a couple of life hacks that basically will help them on their journey to live a healthier life?
We're going to do healthy life hacks. Okay. My own personal ones?
Well, both. Whatever you see yourself as well as
what you're seeing
in the wider world.
Okay, so there's some that I see with our customers. I mean, my own personal, like I have a few personal ones which have been instrumental in just my balance. You guys can tell me if you agree or not. What do you think?
We'll be the judge.
You'll be the judge. Okay. I set my alarm for 5:25 every single day.
You're part of that 5 a.m. club?
I am a 5 a.m.
Oh my God. Okay, go on.
It's the only way that I can consistently get in my exercise, which gives me
What time do you sleep?
9:45.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so that's good amount of time.
I have I'm good on, and I've been using the Oura Ring, and my sleep score is good.
Okay, perfect.
So
I like it.
So that is a hack. Okay, for I think kid hack is, you can just add vegetables, get them just eating what you eat sooner than later is my kid hack. I mean, that's just because that will help your own sanity as well. And you can hide a lot of things in chili. Yeah.
Your kids are onto Nando's already, right?
Well, they certainly are, but I try and get them on. Just have the chicken as opposed to the chips.
Just have the chicken and the mushy peas. Okay, so the mornings it depends on if you're a morning person, but I do tell people when they tell, I'm not waking up. Anyone who's traveled and had to adjust to a time zone, you can wake up at 5:25. Yeah. Right? It's quiet. It's very peaceful. Okay, so then hacks, because with ULife, with customers, because we're essentially encouraging people to just do a little bit more of just a little bit of movement, a little bit of activity. Yeah. So walking meetings.
Okay. Yeah.
All the time. Walkie-talkies, so I call them. Interestingly, I think people oftentimes open up more.
That's true.
Especially Gen Zers who get a bit scared because they haven't been used to talking on the phone. Like, I'm a big phone talker. So I think it's actually good practice it's like a good development thing as well, a walkie-talkie. Definitely just getting fresh air in the morning, 100%. Just get outside and just feel the fresh air. Because oftentimes if you're working remotely, which we have, you're not getting outside. You're not really, capturing that moment in nature.
So true.
I have so many more. I also just simple things like, I put frozen spinach in my smoothies every morning because it makes them thicker, and I like a thick smoothie.
Yeah.
And it tastes pretty good.
So one of the magic ingredients.
Yeah. Well,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So a little bit about work-life balance.
I want to hear your hacks. But.
Well, yeah. Certainly come on to them. What about work-life balance?
Yeah.
How does that work for you? Because you talk about sort of getting up at the 5 a.m. and sleeping at 9, but you have a busy day, you have a busy job, you have a busy life. How do you balance it all?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. I don't operate in a land of routine at all, except for a few things. Waking up early and exercising before I go to the office. Yeah. I have the same smoothie every day. It's so boring for breakfast, but it gives me the hit. And I have the same lunch every day. Like I pack my lunch. And that comes from my mom packing my lunch as a kid every day. We had the same thing every day. Turkey sandwich, apple, great. I don't have that. Now I like mix it up with avocado a little. Then everything else is a bit fluid, and that's okay. Yeah. So, like I want to be home for my kids. I want to tuck them in, say goodnight. I want to have those family dinners. I want to see my friends. But I think the grounding of just having that time in the morning to my own has been like so important. Now, the other thing that I did, and this is a bit of a hack, because I just think like having your phone next to your bed is, I don't think there's any value. This took me a while because I'm like, this is my alarm. So I've actually gone, shout out to Sam Fromson who gave me this idea, who's one of the co-founders. I bought a 13-pound alarm clock on Amazon that is transformative.
So rather than your phone?
I leave my phone downstairs and I have that alarm clock. And I'm telling you, I mean, it's my sleep scores have gone up considerably. Yeah. And you don't need to be, you can feel it. You don't need to be tracking everything crazy. But I think there's just, to leave your phone downstairs and just read a book before bed and have a traditional alarm clock is transformative.
Amazing.
And if you think about, like, you go back to, I spent quite a bit of time with the most incredible performance coach recently called Dr. Wayne Diesel, because we ran an event with, how great is that name?
Amazing.
I want to give him a shout out, but he's this incredible man. And we ran an event. I ran an event with one of our VCs, Notion, with Chasso, and this event was all about like building high performance teams, but also like how to build a high performance founder, because oftentimes founders are overlooked in terms of their mental health, in terms of how they're feeling. And the analogy was the negative split. So how you approach, there's the negative split is the halfway point of running a marathon, and there is a difference in how people approach the second half of the marathon versus some people. How do you kind of create that endurance? Yes. And there was an analogy around that in terms of how we framed this event with Wayne Diesel, who's trained some of the biggest sports coaches ever. And when it was interesting, because when he talked about what it takes, at the end of the day, like it's like the basics: nutrition, sleep, movement. So you don't really need, I think I love a sauna plunge. So I do, that's like a bit of an et cetera. But, if you think about, like, if now me having this analog 13-pound alarm clock is going to help what is a third of the most important things to being a balanced, healthy person, man, that's like the best investment ever. Yeah.
13 pounds to save your life. Change your life.
We're coming to the end. Last question. Yeah, time has zipped by. You pack a punch with the way you tell a story. Very...
thank you.
Eloquent and on point. I'm curious to know if you very deliberately invested in storytelling as a personal capability, or it's just something that comes naturally. You described yourself as a storyteller, as a marketer. Tell us a bit more.
I just think stories is what you connects you to other humans. So it's probably like experience. Probably told so many, I get better at it, not without even knowing. What has helped me is my LinkedIn adventure the last couple of years, which has been subtle, but it's been a way, the same way someone might choose to write in a journal. It's been a way for me to curate the things that I learn into storytelling. And there's been a discipline to that I like. But if you think about, I'm very much someone who really likes to be in real life. And in real life moments, dinners or networking or events, like I thrive on telling those and sharing those stories. So not just one directional, but learning from people through their shared experiences. So I do think it's like over time you just get better at it probably. And also like people say, it's interesting because people will say like, good things happen to you. I'm like, that's because I do a lot of things. Like, so if
create your own luck.
But if you put yourself out there and you say yes and you lean in, things do happen positively. It's just you have to be quite intentional about it over the course of time, I would say.
Lovely. Great note to end.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us today, Lauren. It's been a great conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.